Welcome, folks, to the Attack Power Rankings of the WPF, the second division of Deoxys. I'm Volume here with Pluto.
How's it going?
And we're here to bring you some power rankings. And just some quick notes before we begin. This is going to be it's subjective, doesn't really matter. We're doing this for fun. And if you are ranked low, just roast us by winning. That's simple, just win. It's really easy, actually. Or agree with us and make transactions.
Yeah, just play good, you know?
Yeah,
Super easy.
it's real simple, actually. You have two choices: change your entire team or win. So there's
Or
no in
both.
between. That's true. You can do both. If you do both, I guess we win in the end. All right, but but the thing is, you have to get through us. We're trying to win. Anywho,
Yes.
let's get right into it then, and let's go to our 16th place team. This is how we did this. We both rated the teams. We didn't rate each other, so like Pluto rated my team, I rated Pluto's team, but we didn't I didn't rate my own team, and Pluto didn't rate his own team. So we only have one rating for those, but we averaged them all out between the 15 teams that we rated, and then got a 16 team list, and that's how we did it. So without further ado, the 16th place team is Ben with this Chi team.
And I mean, it certainly is a team. I think really you can look at this team and you can say that it checked all the boxes. It has no major weaknesses. It has a lot of type diversity. The speed tiers are accurate. You've got hazards, you've got removal. But cohesively, I don't see a game plan here. Like it's got the screens, it's got the spikes, but it doesn't have like setup sweepers for those screens, and it doesn't have like defensive pressure for spikes outside of like Slowking.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this team is Chiyu or bust. Chiyu has to go hard here, has to carry, and it's not really gonna set up. Like Meowscarada, they're good Pokemon on this team. They kind of work okay together, but it just feels like lackluster. There's nothing that really stands out as what's gonna like carry this team. If Chiyu doesn't bust, it is we don't have this listed, but it is Terra Chiyu, and that is probably the strongest Terra in the game. But it just feels like what's around it isn't very exciting, and it's not gonna. There's no real game plan other than Chiyu like wins, you know?
Yeah, and I think another thing that's important to point out is that both of the top two share a type, and while their weakness sharing, like, it's just fighting, like they don't share fairy and they don't share bug, they do share that fighting weakness, which is also shared by treads. So they're really leaning on Slowking. And while, like, you know, there's Flamigo, there's Dragalge, there's Mismagius, those are all low tiers, and honestly, they're low tier for a reason. You will probably bring them specifically to be a fighting resist in a lot of these matchups, and I think that only goes so far.
Yeah, like this. It also like Slowking is the defensive backbone of this team, and it's kind of like there are other like pieces that are maybe vaguely defensive, but it's really an offensive team that doesn't. I don't know if it hurts that much. It might be hard to play against, but I think it doesn't really. It makes me compared to the other teams, it's kind of lackluster. Even though it does, like Pluto said, check all the boxes.
Hmm.
Uh,
Like we mentioned, these are all subjective, so maybe there is a game plan here that like we just both didn't see because you know there's only two of us, and we looked at a lot of these teams and we were like, yep, that one makes sense. There's probably some hidden game plan that Ben has here that we just don't know about. Um, but I just don't know what that is. And until I see it, I'm kind of ranking it a little on the lower end because I just don't know what the end game is for it.
yeah, pretty much the same page, right? Like we don't know. But I think uh, we could go on, but that's all we got for this one. And let's move on to the next ranking. Elevated, a fellow mod who didn't want to be in this video.
Yeah, how about that?
So that's actually the real reason why I ranked them 15th.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly why elevated. Why couldn't you be in this video? If you're hearing me right now, you are listening to it. You are interested in PRs. You couldn't contribute, my guy. Um, no, but the real reason is because you look at this team and you're like, oh, that's a lot of scary mons. They've got Torn, and that's Terratorn, by the way. Terratorn, they've got Valiant, they've got King Gambit, they've got Baxcalibur, they've got Lycan Dusk. They have Rotomwash, which is scary, but for different reasons than the other ones. But the point is, it's different for a reason. All of the other Pokemon, besides Torn and Rotom, are cleaners. They're all, hey, I come in the late game and I kill everything that's left. But where's the early and mid game with this team? Honestly, I don't see it.
It's Torn Team Rotom Wash, and that's what's carrying this team. But
They're
I feel
pivoting back and forth.
it's going back and forth until Rotom dies. Like passes the baton to Torn Team. Torn's like, I'm healthy again. Comes in. Rotom Wash is like, I'm still beat up. And the Torn Team comes back in to take a hit, and it's like, sorry, I took a hit. Rotom, can you take it? Rotom's at like 10%. It's like shit.
Yeah, I'm considering Rotom lost Pain Split. It really relies on leftovers to get that back. I had a Heat Tom last season, and I didn't realize it didn't have Pain Split until after the drafting process, and I went, oh, all right. Lost a lot of that defensive backbone, so Rotom is even less defensive than it would appear at first glance.
Also, you might look at this, and you might see this Iron Valiant, and you might be like, that's a pretty good mon. It's a top tier mon. This Elevated, for example, was 8th pick. They got this on the 8th round. What I'd like to point out that Iron Valiant has tricked y'all, okay? It's running around doing nothing, all right? This thing just cleans. It can run one set, boost their energy speed, like it has. You got so many good sets. Like, ooh, I can maybe run this, maybe run that. Nah, it's doing nothing. It can't.
It's Mega Gallade from last gen. It has the move pool to do so many things, but you know it's just going to be doing the one. And if it tries to do something else, it might pick up a nice, like, cool tech kill. But, like, you could also pick up several kills by running boost your energy speed. Like,
I'm gonna have to fight you on the Mega Gallade point, but that's not why we're here. But yeah, Valiant. I mean, I just feel like I'm like wary of it. Like I feel like it doesn't do enough, and maybe it can be the linchpin of this team, because if this Iron Valiant can be like a breaker, then maybe it opens up the King Gambit or the Excalibur to do something, and Lycanroc can maybe break too, but like. Which is why this team isn't dead last, but like it just feels like there are strong mons. Can they do it? Can they do it?
yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, Lime can just throw like 5 Pokemon at the opponent, have them all die, and then go into King Gambit.
Yeah, I mean,
and just play from there.
That's an option. And just the one more time, like the fairy resistance muck on this team. There are 3 carries that are weak to fairy, and then it's like fairy resist. Oh, I mean, I guess King Gambit isn't weak to. I'm blanking, but like it's like your fairy resist is muck. That's not.
Yeah, but the steel doesn't resist fairy either, is the thing, and it doesn't have recovery. It's not exactly bulky, and so I envision Terra Steel Torn coming a lot for this team.
You gotta keep it together. I feel like you always want to be able to run offensive sets, and I don't know if defensive Terra every week is going to be ideal, but it's still Terra Torn should be pretty good. But I shall dub this team the Elevated Cleaners, and move on to the 14th place team. So let's go for it. It's Lime with Pluto, take it away.
All right, so look at this team, right? We've got Palafin, we've got Garchomp, we've got Cinderace, we've got Scizor, we've got Thundy, and Moltres Galar, as far as like high top to mid tiers go, and then you have Diancie as a mid tier, and then 3 Pokemon that collectively barely break 10 points. But the main issue is that look at what they all do, right? You got a physical breaker, you've got a physical breaker, you got a physical breaker, you've got a special breaker, a physical breaker, hazard support, and a sponge, right? And then Gmolt is a special sweeper. So they all do the same thing, with the exceptions being Thundy, Diancie, and Gmolt. They're all physical breakers. So if there's a physically defensive mon that can come in consistently on them, then they're really going to struggle to make an impact. And this is especially true for, like, heaven forbid they have regen, honestly, because that just, they're never getting rid of it. I think this is definitely a team that can function in Gen 9, but that's because it's Generation 9, and it's hyper offense, the metagame. You cannot physically run hyper defense in Gen 9 because of the mechanics changes. And I think this team would not have functioned in Generation 8, but does in Generation 9 because of that.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. This is a Gen 9 team. However, I don't even think it's a good Gen 9 hyper-offensive team. It's a boring hyper-offensive team. It's just like, hit me, I got to hit you before you hit me, otherwise I have nothing. Absolutely zero. And it's like, yeah, Palafin's scary, Cinderace is scary. Like, those mods are hard to switch into. Garchomp can kind of be utility. Thunderous can, like, do some sweeping. Scizor, I have it. It's pretty good. But I mean, it's not defensive. And like, what are you gonna switch in? It doesn't matter. Like, your game's gonna be like 10 turns. Like, I don't think this team is very sustainable. I don't know if it's gonna be able to like out like tank the other team. So, and like the other hyper offense teams running around.
Check out those speed tiers. They're mostly above 100, which is awesome, and that's where we get the like hit them before they hit you kind of thing. Because like we know that if we're getting hit with this team, something is like getting 2-hit KO'd by like neutral hits and O-code by weaknesses. So you really just got to hit them. And Scizor, Bullet Punch, the speed options in Garchomp, Cinderace, and Thundy, they're all here to do exactly that.
You got the Jet Punch classic.
Exactly. And I think here's my gripe with literally every Palafin team ever, right? Like Palafin Hero, it's scary. It hits hard. But you start off as Little Baby Boy, and you probably are going to lead Little Baby Boy.
We may have fooled you here with our Palafin Hero. You think you start with it, but that's not the case.
Yeah, no, you start with Little Baby Boy, and that means that you probably want to lead Little Baby Boy, so you get the big man as soon as you can. And that means that your play from turn 1, you're on the back foot because your opponent knows what you're doing turn 1 most of the time. Now, I may be like in the minority when I see that that's a problem, but that's my big issue with Palafin as a whole. But that's just me. That's, again, subjective. I don't like Palafin.
Palafin does clutch on that, but I think it's play aroundable depending on the team. I don't know if you really want to be switching around with this team, though. It does have like a fair amount of, like, I guess you can switch around with it. You got like Volt Turn with Thunder Scizor, Cinderace, Palafin can flip turn. But I don't know. I just think it's kind of a boring team. And it doesn't. I don't know if it like has that much synergy. It just feels like there's strong ones on this team, and maybe we're missing the synergies. We've talked about this before. We're 2 people. The one thing I do notice, as there's a general overall weakness, is the Edgequake weakness. Stone Edge, Earthquake. Where's the switch? You know.
Like, yeah, everything that resists ground or is immune to ground, more specifically, is flying type and weak to rock, and everything that resists rock is Garchomp, which doesn't have reliable recovery.
Yeah. This Garchomp's gonna like have to be the defensive piece on this team, and I don't know if it can.
And that's really depressing because Garchomp is such a good offensive mon, and you really want to run it offensively. But with how many physical breakers this team has, I don't think Garchomp is saddled with that. I think Garchomp's just kind of got to deal with the fact that it's taking a back seat on this team to things like Palafin, Cinderace, and Scizor.
Garchomp's running hazards. Garchomp's like, Dance's not coming. Garchomp's running hazards. I ran a team last season. Garchomp was my hazard center. I never ran hazards. So, I mean, I think, you know, this it can punch hard, hit hard. Maybe we just don't see something. It could pop off. But other than that, I don't know if there's that much more to say. So,
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it.
Let's go to 13. Which is Aaron the Baron, I think is the full name, but we shortened it to Aaron here.
Aaron the Baron, Mr. Coliseum himself. So I have played Aaron once. It was very early into my draft career, and he clapped my cheeks. And ironically, at that point, I had Torn. So I'm excited to see like how we stack up this time around, because I don't know if we play, but I want to, so I can get that like, you know, did I improve as a player, or am I just gaslighting myself for the past like year and a half? So with this team, I think it's kind of the opposite of Limes in my mind. I think it's very much a Generation 8 team in Generation 9. You've got the hazards, you've got the hazard control, you've got a lot of bulk and a lot of pivoting. But with how offense heavy Gen 9 is and how many like strong top tiers there are, I do worry that this team gets chipped down faster than it's being like than it's accounting for in its composition.
Yeah, I mean, it really relies on this like Sylveon to keep the things healthy, because otherwise there's no reliable recovery. I guess Talonflame gets Roost still. I don't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, and you got the regen Torn, but like, there's not a lot of. I'm the opposite of Pluto. Like, I see like the defensive thing. I'm like, where is the power? What's hitting hard here? Is Great Tusk, like Great Tusk, and then like Torn T can maybe get a nasty plot Gengar. Can run it back. Like I use Gengar. It's a clean Pokemon. It doesn't break. It's sweeping. Like I just feel like it doesn't do what I wanted to, and it's like I'll give it this. It doesn't look ugly, but it just feels lackluster. And I think it like leans on the Samurott a lot here to like help it. Like the Samurai is the ice resist. I don't know if it can be the like only thing that deals with that. Like deals with those Pokemon, and I don't know. Like I don't know what this team is gonna like do to win. Like it doesn't feel. It's like feels like it's hard to win with this team. And it
Yeah,
is
I think this
Terratorn.
is one of those. I
Yeah.
think this is one of those that you are likely going to survive a long time, but you're not going to make a ton of progress. Which again is why it's leaning so heavily on Samurott, because Ceaseless Edge sets spikes. That's awesome. It means that you got great hazard setting because you're not committing to spending a turn on it. You're also dealing damage. Um, but I think it wants to play defensively, but the ice weakness and the ghost weakness, kind of. I want to go into the ghost weakness a little
The
bit.
ghost weaknesses
Um,
are going in.
this is a fighting ghost core kind of thing going on with Great Tusken Gengar. And ordinarily with those cores, you want to add a bulky dark of some kind, um, just to absorb the ghost and dark moves that are, you know, your ghost is weak to, but your fighting doesn't resist the ghost part at least. Um, And while he does have Dunsparce, and Dunsparce is goaded and almost won me my quarterfinals game in last season, I don't think Dunsparce comes to every matchup, which means that Samurott is going to be your ghost resist most of the time. And I think that works, except it's also your ice resist and the like linchpin of your like progress making potential with spikes. So I think Samurott is leaned on way too heavily here, just overall, and it's gonna be really hard to keep it alive. So I think it's got the defense, it's got the bulk, but it's gonna struggle to keep the pressure on, like you said. Like where's the damage outside of residual with spikes?
Yeah, I mean it could be cool. Could manage to sustain. Could like get the switches. Maybe Gengar pops off. Torn T pops off. Hit him with a Talon Flame. Great Tusk is always gonna do shit, but I don't know if it has what it takes. Maybe
I'm excited to see Goodrow with Wish support though. That's gonna be annoying.
mhm. That is gonna be annoying. Uh, I mean, I think it has some like promising parts, but I don't. It's not it for me.
Yeah,
So
Terratorn is broken. Um, Samurott has a great like kit, but I don't know if the team will play how we hope it plays here. I'm willing to like give it the benefit of the doubt for sure. I don't think there's a bad team in Attack this season. I'm going to be honest, except for one. Do you have anything else you want to say with Aaron?
no, I just want to mention we forgot about Lime's Terra, which is Thunderous. Should be good. Should be flexible. Just wanted to bring that up. And
Yeah,
then I also fucked up the stream a little bit. I just like you may have seen my whole Google Chrome, but that's not important. I just wanted to mention that. I was just making sure it was
nice.
recording. All right, so here's the team that Pluto does not like. I thought it was fine. Hence, it's 12th. It's Malcolm's team. It has no weaknesses. This team does not have a weakness, and I liked it. I mean, like we got, I believe it's Terra Lando, which is an interesting Terramon. I'd maybe go Dengo is better. I don't know, but Lando can offer a lot of sweeping potential, and like it can like roll a team, just being Terra, free Terra, and you got a lot of setup options with the Pokemon, and like Urshifu is always a strong. It's going to be a breaker. I'm a little wary of having Urshifu being a centerpiece on the team, but I mean it can. There's other things that support it. And they got the Belly Drum Azumarill, which doesn't always have to do that. You got great pivots with like the Slowking, Landorus, Slicklazar, Rotom Heat can pivot, Sarina can pivot, Glamora sets hazards. It's kind of got a lot of things going for it. Of course, Glamora is the only real hazard setter outside of the Lando T, which is going to be a lot be hard to trip things down. I wasn't super high on this team, but I thought it had some potential, and there was some windows for it to work. But Pluto, if you would like to take it away.
All right, so now to like to you said the good parts, I've got the bad parts. So first and foremost, yeah, it has no weaknesses. That's awesome. Um, it's hard to do that and still make a cohesive team. But if you let a certain thing fall completely by the wayside, I think you can do it. And I think that's kind of what happened here. Because if you look at the speed tiers, there is one Pokemon above 97 speed, and that is Cyclizar, which has not no offensive pressure, but it's not a lot either. It's just kind of it hits hard enough to not be completely passive. Um, and I think that's cool if Shed Tail is allowed, but it's not. And now Cyclizar is regen spinner and also strong Draco and strong double edge. And then you go into everything slower than base 100 and your opponent's 100 plus breakers like destroy the entirety of your team with very little to stop them besides Scarfers. I think Terra Lando is awesome. I think it's great. Speaking as I used Lando last season, it's very good. And I didn't use Terra Lando, but that does make it even more threatening because it actually has flying stab now, or whatever else you want it to do. However, because it's the Terra Captain, I don't think it'll be running hazards, which means your only hazard control is Glamora. So you're going to be setting hazards with Glamora, and Glamora only lasts so long. Something that I think is cool about this team is that it actually shares so many aspects of my team from last season. Goldengo, Lando, Glamora, and Rotom Heat were all on my roster. And I think something fun that might come to more than one game this season is Trick Room, and I think that'll be interesting because I wouldn't even say this team has Trick Room abusers. I just think that the speed tiers are generally unimpressive enough that they can pull off Trick Room, and Belly Drum Azumarill in Trick Room is a menace, so I would love to see that come. Overall, I just think the hazards are lackluster. The speed tiers are not good at all. And while the pivoting's good, I don't think that there's a lot of cohesion here besides Goldengo, Glamora. And obviously, like, Lando is great in conjunction with a lot of this stuff, but I don't think it will carry the way that we really want Lando, Urshifu, Azumarill to, because of the speed issues.
I will just quick counterpoint. This team has like 8 Scarfers, not 8 Scarfers. You know, it has so many Scarfers. Urshifu, Goldengo. I mean, it's Terra Landos. You probably don't want to Scarf it, but you can. And you can Scarf that Rotom Heat. You can Scarf that Serena. There's like 5 Scarfers. So
yeah, there's a lot
you
of
can make up for it. You can make up for the speed. But I do agree.
Run a Scarf on your base 100.
It's not. This is not like a high tier team just because it is slow. It's got and it looks like it can be okay. And maybe Malcolm's really good at playing around this. And the Trick Room options are there. But we'll see. We shall see how this team plays out. I think it will do all right. But let us move on to the next team, which is Endless Gadgets. This man is 100% watching the power rankings, I can tell you for sure, and he's going to roast the fuck out of us for whatever we do.
He's going to be like, how dare you? That's how you put 11.
But his team is, you know, it's top heavy. It's got that. First of all, it's Terra Annihilate, which I find interesting. I guess it's a scary. You can get the Rage Fist bonuses. I think that's interesting. But like, it's a Chen Pao team first and foremost, and that's honestly all you really need to know about this team because everything else is hoping that Chen Pao wins this game. It's just breaking it down. Maybe the Annihilate can like sweep a team too because it's Terra Annihilate. That's scary. But his team is like, we're breaking teams down. We got the Glamora hazard stack. We got the momentum from the Azelf and the Nemris gets U-turn, right? I'm not juiced. Am I juiced?
I think so.
No,
I don't think it does. Fuck. I think it's the one genie that doesn't get it.
Well, I know. Whatever. I'm juiced, guys. But like, he's got the Annihilate U-turn, Azelf U-turn, Electrode. Voltage doesn't have Shed Tail, but like he's got like a lot of play around and he can like. He's a fast team first off too, like because of the Electrode, the Chen Pao, and the Azelf. Like it's like literally 5 mons above 100. It's pretty insane. Comparatively to like we just came from the Malcolm team with 1 mon above 100. So I mean, I think this team is definitely interesting. I think it's very, and we talked about like Ben not having a clear game plan. This one has a clear game plan. Chen Pao, please.
Oh yeah, this one is literally, I'm gonna throw all my hazards at you. break with Garchomp, Annihilate, and Enamorus and Azelf, and then throw Chen Pao at you in the late game and hope that I've done enough damage that it can just kill everything with like banded moves. I will say my biggest concern with this team is the fairy weakness, and while it doesn't look terrible because Glimmora there and Earthworm's there, and they're both good defensive mons. With how the game plan looks from the outside, I think Glimmora is going to be a sash lead most of the time to, keep the offense going and ensure that you get at least one layer of T-Spikes and your rocks up, for sure. And that means that it's not a fairy resist, because it's dying on turn 2. And that means that your fairy resist is Earthworm, which I find very passive, and looking at this team, I can think of 9 other Pokemon I'd rather bring to a game than Earthworm, which is the rest of the team. So I think Terra Annihilate is going to be Steel a lot to kind of mitigate that fairy weakness, and also, turn a weakness into a strength, considering those top 3 are all weak to fairy.
Yeah, we were memeing Valiant, but this could be the team that Valiant runs.
This could be. It's like, it'd have to be like Terra Poison, right? It'd have to be like Terra Poison Annihilate to resist stabs. And that's kind of iffy, because what if he's got Zen Headbutt? Like, Valiant has the option to deal with this team because it's going to be booster speed, because that's the good one. And I think if someone can, either get hazards off or resist being broken down by Chomp, Annihilate, and Enam, while also not feeding Annihilate too many hits to increase Rage Fest, I think this team will kind of struggle to... I think it's a quick burn. I think it'll start off strong and then peter out as the battle goes on.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like can it like get within its limited time frame get it into position for Chimpao, or maybe Annihilate. Yeah. I think those are 2 of the win cons, and everything else is supporting it. And it's pretty clear to see from like what these mons are doing. Like, they're not winning the game without those 2 pulling through.
Yeah,
and like you can
but
maybe
shout
get
out to this team for getting sniped to death, absolutely annihilated. Like,
no, that's why I picked Annihilate, because he was getting annihilated in the draft. So.
Yeah, the draft was brutal for Endless. I don't think he made it. I think he made 2 rounds without getting sniped, and that's including wheel. Like, I think there was one round where he literally got double sniped on the wheel, which was ridiculous because he's second pick.
Truly incredible.
But I don't think I have anything else to say about this team. I just think it's hazards and break and then Chen Pao.
No, I agree. I just like to point out that I kind of am dumb, and there's the Volt Switch U-turn flip turn on the slide here. I just forgot to look at that. So now nice. Clearly doesn't get the U-turn. You know what it does? Klutzer. My bad.
Sure?
according to the sheet might be wrong, but it gets flip
I know the sheet doesn't account for moves that things lost between
it should still get flip turned though, right? So
yeah, I don't think it gets flip turned, but I do think it gets U-turn. I think it gets U-turn, but not flip turn.
I get the metas confused. You play multiple metas, it gets confusing.
Yeah, I think flip turn is Palafin exclusive in Paldeodex.
What the fuck? Okay.
Yeah, I know, right?
Cool. All right, well, let's move on to the 10th team before I embarrass myself further.
Let's go.
HZK with the bundle team and the big iron hands coming through in 4th pick. Of course, it is Terra Bundle, and so it's a bundle team.
We can switch this from the past few. I really like this team, and Volume really does not like this team. It's got Big Bulk and Tingaloo and Iron Hands, and like Iron Bundle is Terra, and that's really hard to prep for. Because it could change its type and not be like made of toilet paper anymore, like not be made of tissue paper where it breaks in like 2 seconds. It's got hazards all over the place. It's got Zoroark to be annoying, and Hands and Ting-Lu with wish support is great, but normally not that impressive because their HP is so high that their wishes are small. But with something like Alomomola, it's big enough wishes that they're actually going to, really benefit from them, which is crazy. Because that's kind of their thing, is that they're big, bulky dudes with no form of recovery outside of, like, rest. And another one that's similar is Bronzong, and I think you've got some stuff to say about Bronzong.
I do.
Um, but I think Wish into Bronzong will help its longevity issues a lot. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
So I sort of got distracted by the Iron Hands, but this team is fucking ugly. It's ugly. I hate it. It looks bad. Like, doesn't mean it is bad. It just looks bad to my eyes. And as you can see, they've got the Bronzong in the center of this team, and honestly, I think that Bronzong, he's got his arms outstretched. He's holding this team together. He's pulling it together. He's like, guys, you need me. He's like trying his best to make sure this team does not just fall apart. It's a crucial steel type, and I think it's the secondary rocker behind the Tingaloo, and crucially, like, it's an ice resist for this team that, like, otherwise you can get the Lomomola and the Typhlosion. And I guess Bundle resists ice because it's an ice type and a water type. So, but those things you don't really want to switch into that. And I think it just feels so cinematic to me that it's in the middle of the team and it's drafted in the middle to holding it together. But I don't know if this Alomomola can really pull its end of the deal too with these wishes, keeping everything healthy. Like, I've used some Alomomola. It's passive. Like, maybe I think it was like T-Bug talking to me, and he was like, Alomomola is like the GOAT. You can run liquidation, you can like murder things. But like, I don't think this bond is super good, and it's not exactly what you want your pivoting team to keep your team healthy with. He's got like I didn't even rate this team that low in my draft. It was like mid bottom, but as you'll see at the end, but like it's got like okay things. Like Iron Bundle is pretty good. I think it's unreliable, which is why it's like if you can run you can run Terra Blast Water, I guess, if you don't want to miss your Hydro Pumps. But that feels really bad to do when you probably want to run other Terras. And like Hydro Pump misses, and that's the critical failure with Iron Bundle. Masquerada is, I think, a really strong mon, but I don't know, like this team like can hit hard, but it is bulky. It's got its things, but it doesn't really have a cleaner outside of Bundle, and like maybe DD Dragonite can do things. Like, I don't know. I think my brain is simply too small to figure out how this team is supposed to like do things, because it has options. Like, it's not bad, but it just looks bad to me.
It's thick.
But I mean, Ting-Lu, I do give it this. Ting-Lu Iron Hands Bronzong is kind of super rad to me. Like, when I think about it a little bit, but that requires me to turn on my brain, and I don't know. As the gears are turning, it's getting
Absolutely.
grindy.
Yeah, I like the defense on this team. I think its breaking potential is great, and I think this team will be difficult for people to deal with in practice. Also, I'd like to shout out Zoroark disguising itself as Iron Hands. I remember as Bronzong rather, because it's gonna be hit by the ghost moves that are directed at it, and as Ting-Lu, it's gonna be hit by the fighting moves, and overall, it's gonna be a little annoying guy that you need to be kind of wary of because it also hits like a train.
The Zoroark could pop off. Like, there are good pieces to this team. I think I'll be flat out. I think I rate this team like 11th or something, which is not terrible, but
Yeah, I think I rated it like.
You rated it 5th, I believe.
Did I? Yeah. No, it's pretty great. I like it.
I don't know. It could pop off, and maybe HGK, you have the ability to prove Pluto right here. So
let's go, man. You got this.
But let's see if that's your destiny. Speaking of destiny,
dun, dun, dun. Segue.
Another bundle team.
Bundle into bundle, and I think even further beyond that, it's bundle into bundle, both with Wish support for their bulk. This one, however, Wish supporting its offense, and even funnier, it's another team that looks like my team from last season. It's got Bundle, it's got Lando, it's got Noivern, not Zoroark. It's got Zarude, and it's got a Mousehold, which I did drop immediately, but I was still on the team, so I'm still counting it. Pair that with an offensive fighting like Zama, and this is a lot like my team from last season, but I think it fixes a lot of the issues that I faced, like no fairy and no Wish support, which I also think really helps Zama. So I quite like this team. I think it keeps itself healthy pretty well. The only issue being that it suffers from Bundle being an inconsistent top one. And while Glow King is beefy and thick, it's Gen 9, defense only goes so far, and I think Glowking is probably going to be your switch into most things, which means that if it gets called out, that's a little dangerous for you.
Yeah, I mean, this team's got a couple of, like, random problems, like, you know, a flying weakness being Carcoal being your only flying resist, generally a bad thing actually. Edgequake also kind of tears through this team because the only thing that resists a Stone Edge is Zamazenta, which will get eaten by an Earthquake. And it's also got a big, like, it hits a lot of fast things. This is also a very fast team. Like Iron Bundle, Zamazenta, Noivern, Mousehold, Zarude above 100, and even Lando T at 91. But that's below it. It's a 30-point drop, and that's 60 points, 60 speed. I mean, for Sylveon, 29 points, or 31 points of speed gap. That's pretty fucking big, and it's been a part where there's like a lot of mons like 86, 90, like 75. They can abuse the speed tiering.
Yeah, a lot of people I talk to, and I'm like, yeah, having a speed gap like in the middle of your draft is like really rough, and they're like, well, I don't really see why, because you know it's at the point where most of your Pokemon are like kind of bulky, and it's like, well, yeah, it's at the point where most of them are kind of bulky. So if you min max it and you go like full speed or full bulk and like have like very slow mons, then those middle Pokemon that are kind of bulky can be really bulky because they don't need to worry about speed at all. So now they hit hard, are very slightly faster than your bulk, and are also bulky themselves.
Yeah.
So they become like those min speed Pokemon, but a little faster than them, which makes them better. So it means that they don't need to worry about speed. And having a speed gap of 31 is enormous. And your hazards are not great either, because there's Spidops and Carcoal, Lando Rocks, and I guess G-King T-Spikes if you really want to run them at some point.
Yeah, there are options. I don't like. It seems like I kind of like Zamazenta and like the Slowking, and the Slowking gives the utility reception for Iron Bundle, like bundle plus. To me, it's like I don't know, like Kentera bundle carry. I think it's unreliable. I talked about this with the last team, but it's like it's bundle plus Zamahopium. Like can this because like everything else is supporting it really. I mean, Lando T. This is not a Terra Lando T. It's not going to be able to pop up as hard as per se Malcolm's would be, but it is going to be able to be a linchpin and like holding the team together, kind of pivoting around with because these are pretty good pivots. Like if you look at right down at the U-turn thing, assuming it's not bugged, like his entire team U-turns. His entire team fucking U-turns.
Literally everything besides Zama, G-King, and Sylveon, and Carcoal, I guess, gets U-turned. Like,
yeah,
they're all moving.
I like teams that turn all over the place. Like, turning is fun. I think it's good. I think it was better in older seasons, but I think it's still good. And I think that can be the clutch point for this team. But other than that, I don't know if there's a lot more to say. So
I think Sylveon is going to be able to keep things alive very well. Lando Bundle is a great offensive core. I can speak from experience. And I think Sylveon is what holds this team together because it's the fairy, so it resists the dragons and it's the fairy, and you want to have that fairy with this team composition.
Also,
but even
strategically placed in the center of the team.
also, yes, keeping the team together, similar to the Bronzong. But like specifically for Zama, which I have used, and my biggest issue with it is how quickly it gets chipped down. I think having wish support from Sylveon is really going to help. I'm excited to see if Sylveon can hold the team together as well as I hope it can, and I think it will.
Yeah. Well, one last note though. I think I used Zama Sylveon season 12 of Attack. I believe I had Sylveon. I don't know. It just didn't fall through. Like Zamazenta's always the cleaner to me, and so like Iron Bundle and Zama are both cleaning, and I don't know how good that is. I know Zama gets body press now, which is pretty good. It didn't always. There's another move that it got. I'm kind of confused. I really shouldn't try to talk about what moves things get. But like Iron Defense Body Press is pretty good. And so it can do a lot more setup than it could previously because Body Press
I believe it's that it got Stone Edge to hit flying types, which it did struggle with before, yeah.
That can help it a lot too. But I do agree it does get chipped out, so it's gonna be a lot on this Sylveon to pick it up. But let's start screaming, let's start shouting, let's turn up the volume.
Oh my god. We've entered top half. How about that?
I can't
So
believe I made top half.
so what was your thought process when you were drafting this team?
Oh, you want to go straight into why I drafted this team? Sure. So I was 7th pick. I saw that I was looking at the tarot users that are like what I thought would be the best tarot users. Chiyu was first picked. I thought that was probably the best tarot user. I don't know if it was first pick worthy. I don't know. But I saw Regieleki was still up, and I thought that's the best tarot user available. I'm running it back. I ran it last season. It's coming back. I think it's the GOAT. It's the thing that carried my team, and I think it's still underrated in the format. And also, I could have gone Valiant here, and you know who took Valiant right after me? Elevated, but I told you, Valiant's tricked y'all, and I'm not falling for it. So that's why I went Regieleki. Great Tusk. It's expensive. I think it's probably overpriced, but it's really flexible and it can do a lot, and it's a strong ground type, so I think it's very useful. And then I picked Roaring Moon because by the time it got around to me, I was in Europe, came back to me, and I left this pick by accident, and then it was still good to pick, so I was like, fuck it, let's go. And now I have a really big fairy weakness and ice weakness, so I had to pick a steel. Scizor comes up. Then you're like, you got 2 photosynthesis mons. I want Torkoal. I got sniped by fucking Rom, but we'll get to him later. But like Screamtail on a Azumarill got robbed from me, hence I'm with this Hatterene right here, which still kind of works. The Torkoal boosting the Mystical Fire and Magic Bounce keeping the hazards out for Torkoal. This situation is like, I need a ground resist desperately, so that's why it's here. And Staraptor, I really wanted to use it. Bird hits hard. I like hitting hard. Quillfish, I needed water at the end of the day. I planned for it, even though it's my last pick. You might think I threw this together randomly. No, we were aiming for this Quillfish, and it gives me the 2 spikes and the spikes, and a double Intimidate at the end. But it is a very offensive team, and I like to hit hard, like to hit and just smack things and clean up the Regieleki. That's my plan.
I think that works real well. Hey, guess what? Speaking of birds, how about that flying resist, right? It's your Terra Regieleki.
Look, I'm running full Fizdef Regieleki versus any birds. Depending on the bird, full Fizdef or full special defense.
Absolutely. That Regieleki is hard carrying your defense like against flying types right now. I think really what's going to come down to is Torkoal and or Quillfish being bulky enough, and Hatterene as well, being bulky enough to like sponge them, and just hoping that you don't go up against like anything too insane when it comes to flying types. Like, I think your Torn matchup is going to be really, really hard to deal with.
But I
because
Torn.
It's good at like stalling out your Sun. It's hits hard with flying moves. And it's not even guaranteed to be flying type because both of the Torns are their Terramons. So whenever you're fighting a Torn, you're fighting a Torn of questionable origin.
A Torn of questionable origin.
So you've got a Torn that hits like a Torn, but also doesn't take hits like a Torn. Like, you're not guaranteed to be super effective against it with Regieleki. So the moment you click that Volt switch and it Terra Blasts, then it's home free.
Wow. That will be rough. If I do get hit by the Torn team matchup will be rough. So I mean, Pluto basically rated me like I think 7th, and then I fell to 8th place once we did average the rankings. So that's why I'm here. I didn't rate myself, but to defend, I mean, I agree. I don't think this is I think this is probably where it should be, the middle of the pack team. If I can pop off with my offensive playstyle, then maybe it will be better. And that's what you really got to hope for here. Like, sometimes we're not considering the playstyle of the opponent, of the coach. We're considering only the team. So if the team fits your playstyle, you can take off. And I think this team fits my playstyle. Thus, Regieleki to the moon. I have Moon on my team, so I can get there pretty easily. So,
when we were doing the PRs, there was definitely a lot of moments where our different playstyles really came into play because I was like, oh, I like think about HCK, for example. Like, I looked at that team and I went, oh yeah, this team makes sense. And Volume went, really?
Pretty much.
And I went, yeah, no, I mean, look at the wish support and all that. But, like, this team is built for someone who is willing to throw offense at someone else as strong as possible for as many turns as it takes. And unlike Limes, where it's literally just throwing shit at someone, it's like you've got the synergy there for the Pokemon that are here. And Scizor Sun was something that you mentioned seeming a little weird.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I'm taking 300% instead of 150. Such a
Yeah.
huge difference.
It only matters for Garchomp Fire Fang, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
also, I can still turn. I can turn. I got the turns, guys. I'm not as turny as Destiny, but I can turn.
I don't think anyone's as turny as Destiny.
No,
I think
I
Destiny
think
is the most
Destiny is the
turny.
king of turns here. I mean, you gotta be able to change fate like that if your name's Destiny. So,
Absolutely.
I,
So
let's
we
turn.
talked about you constantly throwing opponent like you constantly throwing Pokemon at your opponent with this team
Mhm.
and just hoping that you can break through. You know what a synonym for like punching is?
Uh, no.
How about bashing?
That's true. He's bashing in. Turn down the volume. Bash down the doors. We're crashing this party. Let's get down. Bash is my boy. Crash Gang all the way. Let's go. And he's only 7th, but you know.
Hey, it's top half.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Um, I mean, this is a Dragapult team, and I think it's the first Dragapult you've seen, and you might be considering, consider this, Dragapult's still fucking good. It's
Yep.
still a good
Yeah, it's true.
Pokemon.
Like it was like easily top 3 in Generation 8, and now it's Generation 9, and it's still easily top 10. Like
Yeah.
no matter who you are, even if you don't like Pult, you've got to admit it's top 10. And like you could argue it's not top 5, but I think it probably still is. It's still really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super fast. It's a great dragon type. Can set up, can break, can do whatever you want it to do. It's got like enough flexibility and simplicity that it's not really gonna get complicated in what you're running with Valiant. You got enough things to switch around. I also do like we got the ghost fighting core. It's Zamazenta, which is honestly probably the best ghost fighting here. Maybe I'm not sure. I don't remember. But like in terms of this, like these two mons, you talk about these in Gen 8. Someone who has Dragon Ball Zamazenta, you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You're like, what has happened? How did we allow this, guys? Like, bro, what the fuck?
How did someone get one of these round 1 and one of these round 2? Like this is a pick 3 mon with another pick 3 mon from Gen 8. Like
These are top 3 mons basically, and they got them both. But of course,
yeah.
we're in Gen 9. That's why you see that Iron Moth here, which is a Terra user. And I think I don't know. I'm not. Moth is like similar. It's on the Valiant tier for me. It's like I think he'd be running around tricking you all, but I'm not. He might be tricking me too. So,
I will say, I think Iron Moth is very good. I think I think it has great potential to really be able to click buttons. I don't know if this is the team for it, but we can get to that later. There is another Moth lurking somewhere in this PR video, but
oh yeah, Moth
I
is good
think
too, guys.
I think Terra Moth does really well. That's my own view on it. I don't think it's tricked one of us. I don't know which of us it is.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. We don't know who's holding the choice scarf yet. When we start saying the same things over and over again, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I mean, this team, it's got its first 3, like we talked about, right? Those are all cleaners, and you look at it, it's kind of all cleaning up for what's breaking down the doors for this team. I don't know. I'm not really sure because. It's like you got the Thunderous Tea to maybe like get a breaking through, but it can also sweep. And you kind of got the 3 defensive mons in the middle: Dondozo, Florges, and Donphan. And those are like, really like the defensive core of this team, but it's not really sustainable. Like Dondozo has 150 HP, and Florges has a mere 78. These wishes are not that great for the Dondozo.
Yeah, the wishes are essentially life dew. Like Dondozo might as well be using a 2-turn life dew on that. So
Yeah.
it's not getting a lot from those wishes, unlike the HCK team.
Also, you might notice this is the one team with a psychic weakness. I don't know how Bash pulled this off.
I've
But
never seen a team weak to psychic before, honestly. Like
yeah.
unintentionally, because like this team, I think it has the bulk to deal with psychic types like pretty consistently for a little while, but your psychic resist is Quillfish H, and that's scary because it's not that great. I don't think
Yeah.
it's necessarily bad, but
I mean, this is kind of annoying when there's a lot of things that spam psychic. I think.
yeah,
No,
I mean, something is spamming psychic into this team every single week, and you've got to kind of figure out how you're going to deal with that. And I think
yeah.
Dondozo and Fleur just can do it. I don't think Quillfish is solving that issue. I think the 6 that I'm going to see every week from this team are Bolt, Zama, Moth, Dondozo, Thundy, and then one of Florges or Donphan.
Yeah. I got like 2 points, so I don't know. They're kind of split off from both of what you said. One, there's one other resist problem. I don't think Iron Moth should be your only fairy resist. Other point, Decision by Hisui is literally just here, like, it's a ground resist. Otherwise, like, why is it here? Like, what's the point? It's just, like, what's it doing, guys? I'm not real sure.
It's not doing anything that Zama doesn't do better.
It's just...
And also,
what is blood doing on the team, guys?
To piggyback off the Moth thing, right? It's the only fairy resist. It's also your Terra, so it's not going to be your fairy resist for very long. Like,
Terra's still
that
Moth
Moth
every
is
game.
changing. That Moth is metamorphosizing into something else, and it's not going to resist fairy unless it's like it stays fire or turns into a steel type, I guess, would be the things. But yeah, I think Moonblast spam is going to be nuts into this team. And I think this is another one where, you know, Valiant might actually pop off, but you needs to chip down that Dozo and Florges first, because that Dozo and Florges core, as not sustainable as it is, in my opinion, I think it will sponge it long enough for things to happen. So I think this is one of those that over the course of a really long battle, it's going to kind of falter, but it can last longer than a lot of the quick burns that we had at the very low like end of this PR vid.
And the top 3, even though they're all cleaners, are so good. And Dondozo is probably like the best defensive mod in the game.
It's nuts, man. I love it. It's so fucking good. It's so stupid.
So like this team's got a lot to work with, and like maybe he just sets up on everything, and then it doesn't matter because they break and then they die, and then something else comes in and cleans what it kills, and like it can work like that. I think like the synergy. I like the synergies on this team a lot more than lower tier teams that we had talked about. And it makes more sense to me, even though I do think it's not like a super high tier team, because it's you know, it's cleaners, it's defensive course, not super consistent, but it is good, and that's what counts.
Yeah, I think that's really what's going on here for sure.
All right, let us go to the next thing. I hear we might need a doctor. It's Dr. Geo.
Dude, I got bashed too hard. I need to go see somebody.
We got the other Chiyu team, which, you know, by the way, it's Terra Chiyu again. Oh, I lied. I think it's that, but he changed it to Annihilate at the end of the draft. We'll get to that later. But Chiyu went first in both drafts. I don't know. Not sure. This team, though, is still ended up being pretty high. I believe that's because I put it high and not Pluto.
I don't remember where I put it. I need to look, actually.
I have it down as you put it as 9th.
Let me see if I can figure out why.
And I put it out 5th. Well, let me, while you do that, I'll try to talk about why I put this team pretty well. I'm like, I'll get to my flaws for a second, but like Screamtail screens, I think it's really great for this team. Like Chiyu would really appreciate it, Sneasler appreciates it, Black Excalibur appreciates it. You got a nice like Corviknight, Rodamo, Gastrodon. I think that's a really good core. And the Screamtail in there, like it's a really nice defensive core. And this team, it can turn as well. It's got some turning capabilities. The Kamala is really here for a Spectre matchup, I guess, or I guess a Gengar matchup. I'm not really sure how well it do into those. Gengar gets Focus Blast though, but like it kind of this team like leans on the setup because like Sneasler. It hits hard, but like I don't think it's really breaking that much. I used it last season. It's kind of hard. Like you can maybe run a band set, but it gets rolled by ground types. However, when you know it rolls ground types, it's Excalibur, and that thing's gonna take the sword out of the stone and cut through the grounds, cut through and freeze it over. So it's pretty. I mean, it's not Terrabax Excalibur. We banned it, I believe. The Terrabax Excalibur.
Yeah, Terrabax is banned because that thing would be ridiculous.
Yeah, so like I don't know if it's really gonna be the kill leader monster you've seen in like across leagues that had as Terra ability to Terra, but it's still gonna be good, I think. And I think it fits this team pretty well. The Chiyu is kind of there. I don't know, it breaks stuff. But I really like the defensive core, and the offense is like enough of a good offense that I kind of like it, and I can see where it's going. I really don't understand why you have a Sneasler on this team, second pick, and you're like, you know what? We're rolling it. Annihilate Blast pick. And guess what? We're not even tearing the Chiyu. We're tearing the Annihilate. I'm sure Annihilate's a great Terra, but I feel like Chiyu is the best Terra in the game. So, at least in the format that we're playing.
I think something that you mentioned while we were looking this over is that Annihilate feels very slapped on here, and I'm kind of seeing that myself as well. Because, like you said, I don't really know what Sneasler's doing here. Sneasler is a very good mon. It's basically just better Halucha, and it's on a team that, like, yeah, you can set the screens with Screamtail, and I think that's something that's really going to come in handy is like screens Scream, um, to like enable Sneasler, enable Baxcalibur, enable Annihilate. Um, I think Sneasler is kind of out of place, and it's kind of a point sink here. I think getting a different poison would probably make me like this team more, but
That's a
it
really
needs
good
that
point.
speed tier at the same time.
This,
So I feel like Annihilate is kind of the odd one out here, where Annihilate just it was probably chosen because it's a good mon and it was still on the board and he had the points left for it. Um, Gastrodon is great with hazards. Um, I don't like Komala, but that's a me thing.
I
I
don't think it's that
understand
many
that.
points, and it's a good normal, cheap normal.
Yeah, it's. I think it was 3 points,
Yeah.
and you know, honestly, for a 3 pointer, 3 pointers rarely do anything in particular. So I think having Kamala here for like those edge case matchups against, like you said, Gengar and Spectrier, it comes in handy for it. I think the reason that I rated this team a little lower was because your only fairy resist is Corv and your only ice resist, or not ice resist, rather, your flying resist is also Corv. And because Corv only has 8 recovery now instead of 16, it won't be able to do that as long as it used to be able to. Now it can be wished up with Scream, so I think that's less of an issue. It's just a matter of making sure that like you really keep those screens up for this team because this team loves those screens, and you're going to be breaking with Chiyu. I think it's a solid team. I think it's just not how you're used to seeing it. You know, like there are mons on this team that perform a specific duty most of the time that aren't performing that duty, like Spectrier, not Spectrier, Sneasler, um, Screamtail with Wish, and it's really coming down to hey, um, this mon is going to function very slightly differently. Like Scream's running screens instead of Wish most of the time. I mean, it will have Wish still, but it can't like slap Wish Protect on it and heal the whole team. Annihilate is probably going to break more than it usually runs the like bulk up Resto Chesto set. Sneasler has no terrain or like anything to, you know, get the unburden boost, so it's probably going to SD close combat White Herb, would be my guess. And then Chiyu is free to run specs uh, because Corv can defog very reliably for it. So I think this team is good. I don't know why I ranked it so low. I think it's just because I don't see anything really like, oh man, this thing's gonna destroy everything, you know. And I think we're getting to the point where these teams are really good, and we're just kind of getting edged out by the really good ones.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. This is a weird team for me to like because the part that I like about this core is the defensive core. I really love the defensive core, and I think Screamtail can kind of do whatever it wants. Um, so I think that's pretty good. Like Screamtail has a lot of versatility, is what I mean. And like the offensive is enough that I like it. Like Chiyu and Baxcalibur, I like. I really like the point that you raised. That Sneasler, who's the fake one out, odd one out here, Sneasler or Annihilate? Like Sneasler, you need the speed tier, sure, but Annihilate feels like it's doing a lot more than a Sneasler in this team. Other than that, so especially since it's been given the Terra user. But we shall see how this team fares. Dr. Geo had a rough season last season, but I didn't get demoted, so he's still here.
Yeah.
And thus he will prove us wrong, and he's calling an ambulance, but not for him.
Speaking of proving, right? We've got a brand new face. We've got a dark horse in attack this season.
Kind of like pasta. That's what I think of. I
That's
don't
what I
have
think of too. Someone said sanguine, and I was like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Sanguine is a good
Um,
one.
but I think of pasta when I think of linguine.
Linguini, Henguini. We don't have a logo for him, but it's the band Drizzles.
It's kind of funnier that way, I
I
think.
think it is. Straight out of Smogon. And placing high on the draft tiers. In this thing at 5th. But I believe I think you were a little higher on this team than I was. I put this team 7th, so I still thought it was good. But again, I see a Valiant. You know, we already talked about the Valiant. I brought it up so many times. But the Valiant, he's tricked y'all, man. Like, I don't know. But like, unlike Elevated's team, I think this team has a lot more to add than just the. Sorry, than just like the. It's not all setup sweepers or cleaners. I mean, you got the run and wash here still, but you got a good momentum core here as well because this got 2 volt switchers. That's pretty rare. Treads and run and wash can do that, and you do got Zarude, Luxie. Those are classic U-turners. To really give yourself a pivot core, and I kind of like that. And Valiant maybe it can not have to break for this team, but I believe what is the terror on this team again?
Zarude.
Zarude. Oh yeah. So I think the terror Zarude is interesting because I believe you said this. I'll let you say it right now, actually.
Okay, so looking at this team, Zarude might seem like a weird Terra, but Valiant and Spectrier, it's banned. You can't run Terra on either of them. You don't really want the defensive Terra for Washed or Treads because they're like both solid defensive typings anyway. And that brings us to Zarude, and Dark Grass is not very good defensively. So I think having Terra Zarude kind of fixes a lot of its problems. So it does make sense to me why Zarude would be the Terra for this team.
Yeah, and like, I really like the defensive core, the Rotom Wash Treads, Zarude, Uxie, like I really like that. And it's got a lot of rocks, Yeah, it's probably gonna be Uxie, probably gonna be Treads, but you can run the Clement. You can run the Dunsparce. Dunsparce is sort of here for the Ghost type matchups. Like similarly, it's more usable than Kamala, I think. But yeah, I am always worried with this team that there's not enough power on this team. Because like it just feels like it's chipping it down, and I think we describe this as a traditional team, kind of like chip them down. And the Spectre comes in, it cleans up. The Valiant comes in. I'm not high on either Spectre or Valiant, but I still kind of like this team just because the middle of the pack kind of like ties it together for me. I don't know. What do you think? You were a little higher on this one.
Yeah, I think that Valiant Spectrier looks absolutely insane. Fighting and Ghost cores are like really solid. So seeing Fighting and Ghost with like Valiant and Spectrier is very cool because you've got like, Valiant, which, it's only got the booster speed, but, that's fine. It's still going to do great. And then you have Spectrier, which hits hard, especially, and has a really great speed tier. I think my concern is that Rotom Wash is the only ice resist, and there's
That's a
no Wisher,
classic
unlike a lot of
problem.
the other ones. It is. It is. I
Jen
think
Pao runs this team.
that's true. Gen Power really has a field day here. Just even more Valiant needing to be a speed boosting thing. Rotom being the only ice resist is a little scary because your steel doesn't resist it. And I think the one thing that really stuck out to me was I don't really know what Limit's doing here. I don't think it is doing here. But it is another Mon that you can get with points. So, like, to be fair, I respect it.
It's a
I
hazard
just don't think
mon. You can just a
yeah.
hazard. I don't know.
Wow, I really need more rocks with my Uxie or T-Spikes with my Dragalge, which I
Yeah.
remember a lot of people being confused by the pick. But, like, honestly, I think it's fine. Dragalge is a great Mon, and it hits like a train. So,
I
I
would want
think it's going to
Dragalge to hit
still do
more.
good work. What's up?
I used Dragalge. I always wanted to hit harder than it actually hits because you have to understand this thing only has a 97 special attack. It's not
That's valid.
the adaptability is nice, but
That's valid.
but it's still like a good low tier kind of thing, and it can be utility. It can also catch people off guard. I believe so. You like the Valiant Spectre. I still think the Pult Zamazenta is better, and I did put Bash above Henguinie in my lists. So, but it was one above. So
I think the only thing for me that put Bash lower down was the defensive core not being sustainable as sustainable as we want it to be.
Yeah. I just like the offense better, but I guess that's a classic a classic philosophy duel.
Exactly, and that's what made this really interesting is that we both look at these teams very differently. That makes us change where we put them.
Yeah. I mean, let's go on to someone who will also probably watch these PRs, who was formerly on the PRs, kind of a lightning bug, makes a lot of noise. Thunderbug, T-Bug himself. Number 4 on the list. That's top 4, so I assume they'll be somewhat happy. We'll see. I never know what to expect from this guy, but it's the Palafin team again, but it's got the classic Goldango Ting Lu defensive core. That's always good. I played this team week 1 actually, and it's kind of annoying. And we also see the Palafin Cinderace put together. I believe Lime is the person who had these together, but I think T-Bug put them together on a much better team, a much holistic approach. It's very defensive. It's got a lot of bulky options here, but enough power to punch through. And it has okay speed, good speed tiers all around. Not super fast on the high end, but Slicklazar is there. And Cinderace will always be nice, even though it doesn't break 120. The real sauce on this team is, can Tara Ting Lu cook? I'm not a believer. I might get owned by it this next week, but we'll see. I think Tara Goldango would have been better. Maybe a Cinderace Tara. Other than that, he doesn't really have the best options, so maybe that's why he did it. I don't know. I think this team it feels like a T-Bug team, which I know we said we haven't been considering that, but that just enters my mind when I look at this team. And I don't think, regardless of that, I think this team is pretty good. I believe I wasn't honestly, it's pretty high. It's pretty high on my list. I just think it synergizes well, and it's a defensive team that I can respect. Now, as the defense king, what do you have to say? Were you even in defense, by the way? Or did you go straight to speed? Were you even in speed?
I actually was I ever in defense?
Yeah.
My first season I was in attack.
Oh, you were also attack. Okay.
I was in attack, and then this was back before I actually knew what I was doing. But I had sorry. I had a pretty good reputation. Somehow. And I got placed in attack, and I didn't necessarily get my ass kicked, but I definitely went negative, which was unfortunate. And I demoted to speed, and then I promoted out of speed immediately thereafter, because that's, I think, the first team that I really felt confident with in WPF.
Okay.
And I took a break when I did Steel before coming back to attack last season. So that's my story.
Quick brief intro. I tried to insert that in the T-Bug PRs. I pivoted into it. So anyway, what do you think of this team?
I think it's pretty solid. I think that Goldango is a very good mon. I think Palafin is a little lackluster, but if there were ever a team that could pivot Palafin in and out consistently, it's this team, because it's got so many hazards. It's got it's the closest thing to Goldango Glamora without being Goldango Glamora.
And if we ignore Glimmet is baby Glamora, is it not?
It is. It does have Glimmet, but like I said, how often is Glimmet really coming? They'd need to not have removal at all, and also a T-Spike's weakness. I think it's a mixture of a lot of the teams we've seen so far, but it's kind of the good parts of each. So sure, the Wisher is Florges into the Ting Lu, but at the same time, you have Goldango preventing hazard removal, and you have Ting Lu and Chestnut setting them. You have Cyclazar for hazard removal itself, which is very good. You've got Palafin and Cinderace for breaking. You have Oricorio for sweeping, which might seem weird, but Oricorio is actually so good now that it has Quiver Dance. It's actually so good.
Terrifying Pokemon.
Mesprit is here doing rocks if you really don't want Ting Lu to. I also don't know what Ting Lu is going to be doing with Terra, by the way, but I'm excited to find out. That's my thing, is I don't know, but I want to, and I will eventually find out when we play in whatever week it is.
You'll find. You can watch my week. You'll find out week 1.
I will watch that game because I don't know what's going on with this Ting Lu, and I'm so curious, and I want to find out.
Yeah.
Either way, I think this team's solid. The speed tiers are great. The hazard control is great. I think it can break. It can sweep. It's just a matter of positioning it, and I know we said we weren't taking the player into account, but I do think T-Bug is a player who can position this team, and as long as you can do that, I think this team's great.
Yeah, I think Pluto made the argument, which is you look at the team at the highest form it can be played. And I look at the team is it easy to play? So
that's valid.
Though again, I don't even think this team is super. I thought about it. It's not super hard to play. I don't think. But you just put positioning. You're just chipping down with your really good positionings, and Palafin wins. That's pretty much it. Position to Palafin.
That's exactly what it is. It's set hazards and keep them there with Goldengo, and then kill with Palafin, which is
Yeah.
similar to the endless Chen Pao argument, but it's less
Chempa,
unga bunga.
less unga bunga.
You're not beholden to sacking Glimora immediately and then giving yourself a massive weakness. You can
Yeah.
pivot through Chestnut, Tinglu, Goldengo
It's got a
until
lot.
eventually Palafin comes on.
Endless does have a lot more hazards. This is Tinglu carrying the hazard game. Maybe the Krasnot or Mesprit pulls up to drop one, but I
Mhm.
don't know if Glennett's ever pulling up, like you said. No, I do think what is Tinglu really gonna run? It's gonna run hazards, right? That's what it does, especially when you're
Yeah,
running with Goldango. So
for sure. I'm fully expecting Tinglu to vomit hazards against every opponent, but at least that's kind of what it's here for
yeah,
with Goldengo and everything.
Goldango's also just a scary beast of its own, but
Mhm.
it can do whatever. All right, well, I think that's all we got. Let's kill this Firefly and or Thunderbug, and go on to the stars, to our favorite co-host Pluto, and number
Hello.
3. So you have to understand Pluto's number 3 because I put him number 3, and then there's nothing else to average it out.
Yeah,
So
it was a 3-pointer. It was a three, like it was ranked number 3, and my argument couldn't couldn't bring it any further down. So
yeah, I mean, I gave me the opportunity to defend my team before you criticized it. So, but perhaps it's better if I go in first and then you bring it down for this one.
sure, go for it.
Um, so that's another ghost fighting core, and I think first pick Spectre is super juiced. I don't know why you're first picking this Pokemon. Now you may be wondering if that's what my opener is. How did this team end up at number 3? So, Terra Sneasler could be really clutch here and could like win a game pretty easily. And there's something we might have heard Pluto over mentioning it when we talked about the other Sneasler. Where's the terrain for Sneasler? That's right, the seeds are in the game. We had a Rillaboom on this team, and this Sneasler is gonna have easy on burden boosts, kind of like a budget Halucha, a better Halucha. Who knows? Up to you to decide. I think it's better Halucha in this scenario. And I really liked what really sold me on this team is like, well, you got the Fire, Water, Grass core and Zapdos. Like Heatran, Rillaboom, Vaporeon. Like Heatran, Rillaboom. Like people were trying to run Heatran, Bulu in Gen 7 before Rillaboom was a thing. Now you got the Heatran with the Grassy Train for the Heatran. You got the Grassy Train for the Sneasler, and you got this Zapdos to pivot around with the Rillaboom, which is really good. They're both weak to ice, but you have the Vaporeon, which is going to wish and heal these things. Can make the Zapdos not have to burn as many PP on the roost. Can keep the Heatran alive, and keep the Rillaboom alive, too. And on top of that, you have a screen from Grimmsnarl, which is going to, like, really support this team and keep it alive even longer. It's going to be annoying to deal with. It's going to be super annoying to play against this team. And my initial thought for this is it kind of lacks power. Like, our Sneasler and Spectre are going to be able to deal with this, but, like, Rillaboom has 125 base attack. Vaporeon has 110 base special attack. Zapdos has fucking 125 base special attack, and Heatran, it's got 130. Like, this thing hits hard. These look like defensive monsters. These things hit like trucks. Like, yeah, like you think the breakers are lacking? They're in there. They're with the defensive monsters. They're one and the same. And then, like, to round out the team, you got a Mudsdale, which is a secondary rocker, a nice ground type to add to the Heatran. And, and Tauros, again, it's like kind of Spectre. Rapska, you can run webs, which this team might want.
You cannot run webs. It does
Oh,
not get webs.
what?
Everyone thinks it has webs, but it doesn't.
Which one? Dottler gets webs. I got it confused.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm juiced.
Different bug psychic, and
Yeah, it's right there. I always forget to fucking check. It gets Trick Room,
it's cool. It does get Trick Room. That's kind of cool, and it gets Revival Blessing, which is not allowed, and that's why it's 3 points. But it's not really meant to come to games. It's there to be another mon that does exist. That's what 3-pointers are there for.
Yeah, I mean, I really saw on the top 7, Mudsdale's there, maybe top 8. The other ones, they're there. I feel like a lot of these like top teams I've been noticing have like one random mon that's kind of there. Like, why are you here? Like, we talked about like the Annihilate Sneasler on, I believe, Dr. Geo. Bash with his like Kasuan Decidueye. Like, you got mons is kind of thrown there. But it doesn't matter because the rest of the team is so good, and those team mods still add something to the power of the team. So, honestly, I mean, the only thing, like, this punches holes. Only thing, I wish I had, like, one more, like, fast thing that hit hard, but, like, I don't know, Spectre and Sleezler are feasting, I think, with the setup from this team.
That's understandable. On my end, from my perspective, I vividly remember during the draft, I was so ecstatic that I wasn't getting sniped. Because, like, I honestly got, like, Spectre, Sneasler, Heatran, Zapdos, Rillaboom, all without getting sniped on any of them. And that was awesome. And then as soon as I finished getting in my top 5, I got sniped so hard, constantly, like, for the remainder of the draft up until, like, the Tauros pick. I just constantly had to readjust, and I got Grimmsnarl because of screens and like a fairy type. But I originally wanted Donphan in that slot, but that got taken by Elevated. And then I wanted like I was thinking about Doxbun, but I was like, but it doesn't really provide anything that my team needs. Because I already have a fire immunity, and like it would just kind of be a fairy. But what if I brought screens? So I got Grimmsnarl. And then I got Vaporeon, which, I was looking at alongside Grimmsnarl. And then the best ground left was Mudsdale. And that's kind of why it looks slapped on. It's because, honestly, it only brings to the table being a ground type and also rocks. And I like Mudsdale. I think it's solid. But you are correct that it's one of the last thoughts on this team, because that was supposed to be a Donphan up until right about when it was about to get picked. And then Tauros fills out a speed gap, and Rabska is probably never coming to a game. Let's be honest here. It is there, but is it really?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it pulls up. You never know. You never know.
I don't know. I mean, if it ever has a good matchup, maybe. But Bug Psychic, how good of a matchup can you really have? I think this team is fine. I like that. I really love the top 5. That's kind of what I was going for. But as you get to the second half, it kind of stumbles and it kind of loses me. It's kind of the best I could do with it, but it's not quite what I was looking for my team.
Well, I still think you looked pretty good for being the last planet that's no longer a planet.
God damn it.
So you could be 9th, but at least you're 3rd here. So
I will take that. I will take 3rd.
Now you just have to back it up, because if you get juiced, I'm gonna get Now actually, if you do badly, I'm getting juiced. You're getting juiced. We're both getting juiced. It's all on you, buddy. I put the pressure's on you.
It is, yeah, because you ranked me high, and I'm this team that is now in 3rd. So thanks to the pressure, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, let's talk about the other 2 people who have pressure, and we both rank these teams unanimously top 2, unanimously in their position.
Yeah, no, this was my number 2, and this was his number 2, and then the next one is, both of our number 1s. So that's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's Rom here. I don't really have a good pun for this. I don't know what to do. Rom hack. He's hacking the game because he got the 2nd best draft, and he stole my fairy types.
He sees the code, man. He sees the code.
He's hacking the code, stealing my fairy types. But guess what?
Absolutely king of this draft, for sure.
What the fuck? Motherfucker. And guess what? If we were playing Gen 8, we thought Bash was good with Dragapult fucking Zamazenta. This is Dragapult Shifu. Like, what?
That's literally Gen 8 top 2. Like, that's insane that they both showed up on the same draft. And the fact that Shifu was available until, like, round 2 pick, like, what is that, 5, I guess? Or is it 6?
Rama's pick 3 it's round 2 total, so it's like, yeah, it was pick 6.
That's insane. And plus defense with Corv, like, you don't need much more of a defensive backbone with Corv most of the time. But just in case you wanted it, right? You have Screamtail Wishes. You've got, like, Azumarill to click buttons really good. Something I look at this team for is I think the top 3 are incredible together. I think Iron Moth and Screamtail and Azumarill all work really well together as well, like as a separate core, but also tying into the first one. Sandy Shocks is your hazards, and then Arboliva is here. It's Amon. I know a lot of people who love Arboliva. I am not against Arboliva, but I've never been swept by it. But that's going to change this season, right now with Rom. And then Masquerain is here. I don't think Masquerain's coming to a game. He doesn't really need webs. Quiver Dance isn't as good as the rest of his team is at breaking, so I think Masquerain is kind of permanently benched and just threatens webs, which, you know, threatening webs is better than doing nothing. So for a 1-pointer, that's pretty solid.
That's true. It does come in clutch. I do still feel like this is an 8-mon team, but I don't know. I mean, so I was also like, we rated this number 2, but let's start off with the bad things. I don't think Urshifu is solo winning a game here. Like, Urshifu is like a support mon now, which is great. It's supporting Dragapult, the real carry of the team. You got Terra Iron Moth running around. It's kind of similar to Bash's team, I guess. And that's also like a sweeper carry thing. But like, there's a lot of hard-hitting things on this team. They got Screen's offense with the Screamtail. The Sandy Shock's can hit hard. The Azumarill can be scary with the screens. That's terrifying. Get the Belly Drums up. Doesn't even have to do that if it doesn't want to. You got Arboliva to set the grassy terrain to like keep the Moth up, I guess, if it's not going to tear it instantly. Which I think is pretty nice. And it's also just a generally good grass type. And that's like, there's a lot of offensive options on this team that like don't have to be offensive. Like Corviknight is defensive, but it can be offensive. Screamtails is defensive, but it can be offensive. Azumarill could be offensive, but it could be defensive. You know, Dragapult can be a support set. Shifu's kind of locked into being offensive, but
yeah, if you're using Shifu for anything other than just clicking buttons,
yeah,
I don't know what you're using that Shifu for, but I want to find out.
yeah, and we'll just nitpick the weaknesses. Like, it's got an ice weakness a little bit. This is Iron Moth and Azu. I mean, that's not terrible, but a lot of his team is weak to it. And the flying weakness, most people have this, but there's like Sandy Shocks, Corviknight. I don't think Sandy Shocks really wants to be defensively taking anything ever in its life.
Yeah, it can live a hit, but it doesn't want to be taking them.
And you know, Corviknight, I guess, could do the deal with the flying types, but there's always fire.
One thing that I saw that I really wanted to shout out here was Screamtail with Urshifu, because now Urshifu gets Swords Dance, which is nuts. So now you've got Scream, and anything that wants to hit Scream, I believe, Shifu can like kind of threaten, and that means that it comes in, gets an SD, and then clicks a really strong Wicked Blower close combat into something.
Because it's steel and, well, I don't know. Steel and poison? I mean, Screamtail doesn't want to can deal with poisons, I guess.
Steel, Ghost,
I see.
Not necessarily Bug, but doesn't resist Wicked Blow. Poison doesn't resist Wicked Blow. I think.
Remember,
Dark also. Dark is weak to fighting, but, you know, Scream's not weak to Dark anyway.
Yeah. Remember, Fairy resists Bug, so it's like not even weak to Bug.
Oh, that's true too, yeah. I didn't think about that.
And it's
still,
resist the hard.
Still, it's got Screens plus Swords Dance Urshifu, and I think that is going to hit like an absolute...
Screens plus like fucking 4 things that I don't want to play versus Screens with.
I know, yeah, exactly.
Like,
and if you have Screens, no you don't, because he's got Pult.
That's true. Get infiltrated. You get
and Wicked Blow crits also ignore Screens. So this is your Screens anti-Screens offense.
God damn. Well, when you get rolled by Ron, that's where I'm ahead of you on the draft. So we both have to play Ron because we're both in Pool A.
Yep.
So I know a week, but it's happening.
Yeah. Luckily, we don't need to play this last team, or I'd be shaken.
We don't have to craft some strategies to beat this Cream by Craft.
Ayo.
It's Chien-Pao, Regieleki, Terra, because you can't draft that mon without it being Terra. And it went so far back.
Seriously.
It's the second. This you picked the 7th pick round 2. No one, everyone's a Regieleki hater, but see, why can't I be the Chien-Pao Regieleki team?
I don't know how Chien-Pao made it to 7th. I'm gonna be real.
No, Chien-Pao is no. Chien-Pao, he was 7th on the way back, so he's second pick.
Okay.
Chien-Pao makes sense.
All right, cool.
I could never pick Chien-Pao. I think I could have done that the last season. I'm probably juiced. I probably could have picked Chien-Pao then. Regieleki, whatever. I'm just annoyed. Now the Regieleki team has Chien-Pao. It's not me. But
very unfortunate.
We got that. That's a really good fucking combo just to start. Regieleki doesn't even have to run Terra Ice if it doesn't want to, because it's got a Chien-Pao on his team. And that's pretty fucking good. Then we also got a small little Sun Core with Walking Wake, Torkoal, Slitherwing. And we got a Slowking Galar to set up the snow for the Chien-Pao. And just like Tinkaton being just general nuisance as it is, just Chaos Bringer. And of course the classic, we need a normal type to not get rolled by ghosts, Vigoroth on the team. And Toadscroll's there. So.
Yeah, Toadscroll exists as well. I think what's really like impressive and really gets me about this team is that it doesn't fall into the trap that I see a lot of Sun teams go into, which is drafting several fire types to capitalize on the like boosted power.
Hmm.
Um, it's only Torkoal, and I think that works because you have Walking Wake, which benefits heavily from Sun. You got Slitherwing, which hits like a train and has like fire coverage and Flare Blitz. You don't need the extra fire types because, for all intents and purposes, you've got two extra fire types offensively.
Yeah.
Um, so you don't have those stacked weaknesses that you normally see,
You know, this motherfucker
especially to stuff like
copied.
Edgequake.
Yeah,
What's up?
you fucking copied my team. He's fucking. We got here, lucky Sun. I don't have the same Sun users as he does, but this motherfucker. Well,
Yeah,
I'll meet him
no,
in playoffs.
he got ordinarily you see kind of an Edgequake weakness with Sun teams because you have like the stacked fire types and like a flying type to ignore the ground, like to resist ground, right? But this one, no Edgequake weakness here because Toadscroll resists both and Slitherwing resists ground and also hits like an app. Like that thing is going to tear through something. I don't know if I could think of a resist for photosynthesis boosted choice band Slitherwing close combats. Like that thing is going to absolutely tear.
Yeah, and it can come in and first impression you too, just to like
Yeah. You can't even you're not
nail
even
out a
safe.
coffin.
You're not even safe.
Nail in the coffin. It's scary. Its whole team is scary. I looked at this team when I was drafting for fantasy. Craft's on my fantasy team, I believe. And I was looking at the attack people. I was like, I don't know who to go for here. And then I saw this team, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the best team in the league. I'm pretty
It's
sure this
pretty
is the
insane.
best team in the league. Like, Chen Power
It's pretty
Lucky
nuts.
is one thing, but then it follows it up, and it's like, goddamn. I think this team is, to me, it clears, like, best team in the league. Like, Rom is a really good team. I thought Rom was like, oh, Rom's a pretty good team. I didn't think Rom was the best team in the league, even when I saw it, when I was ranking these teams. Like, I just thought Rom had, like, a good team. Like,
Mhm.
Kraft has the, like, it was, I just thought, there's no way anyone has as good a team as this.
Yeah.
So,
As I was like looking at these for ranking the PRs, I looked at this team and I was like, "Where's the defense?" And I looked and it's Slowking, and you really don't need more than Glowking if we're being real. Like, I described it as we were ranking them, but I kind of see Glowking as the new Blissey, where Blissey is like way too passive in Paldea, and if you draft Blissey, it's a throw. I can speak from experience. It's not good in Paldea decks because it lost everything that made it good. Um, Glowking was only buffed in Gen 9. Um, it absolutely, it's so fucking crazy. Glowking eats hits, it deals them out well enough that it's not passive. It's got pivoting, it's got hazards if you really need them, but this team doesn't really need them. You just bring Glowking in on whatever you're scared of, and it eats a hit and pivots out. And that's all you need it to do. It even gives Chen Pao extra defense, which, it's not like the most splashable thing because Chen Pao's not really meant for defense, but it could live an extra hit now is the thing, and that's what's crazy. Is I think this team really shines at like using dual weather to the best of its ability wherever it can, and it doesn't have a massive defensive weakness because Glowking's such a special sponge and Torkoal is such a physical sponge that while it lacks recovery, the rest of the team blows through your team fast enough that it's really not an issue.
yeah, if you somehow
And
live through it all, like, if you
yeah,
live through the Walking Wake, Slitherwing, like, one of these things is killing you. You can't kill through all of them. Like, you kill the Walking
yeah.
Wake, you kill the Slithering, you kill the Chempow, they're still Regieleki.
Even if
The
Sun's
same
not
thing.
up, it's still Chen Pao Regieleki. Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's a core of Chen Pao Regieleki. It's a core of Torkoal, Walking Wake, Slitherwing, and one of these is going to be good into your team, and a good player is going to capitalize on that and tear you apart. Now I don't know how good Craft is, but I think once we're in attack, you're kind of at that point where you know how your team functions and you have drafted around your play style.
Yeah.
So
If it, I mean,
I think Craft is going to be terrifying.
I don't want. I'm glad we don't. I think I don't. I know I don't play this team. I think you don't play this team, right? You
I
said this
don't
already.
believe I do. I think my two Pool B opponents are Lime and someone else.
I played Malcolm and someone else, maybe a line. I don't remember. Uh,
uh,
whatever. That's beside the
oh,
point.
I play Bash.
Okay, yeah, I play not Bash, play Line. Okay, anyway, besides the point. Yeah, I mean, let's say, completely about a point. Oh, you're lucky if you're only weak to one of these things.
Yeah,
You're lucky
honestly.
if you only have. It's like I can handle the Sun Core, but Reggie Lucky Chempao, that's fucking me over. You know, like that's a good matchup in the craft, I think.
Yeah, I can't think of something that handles everything on this team. Like, even like thinking of several Mons, I can't think of things that reliably take on the physical or special sides of either core.
It's a fucking scary team. Let's have
It is.
let's just criticize it for fun. 135 to 109. Those 120 Mons running rampant in his.
Oh no! How terrifying!
Oh no! The Tornadus tease.
What about your removal? Oh, you only have 3? Okay.
Yeah.
What about your hazards?
You really miss it. This team. The one thing this team doesn't have a Volt turn color. It's fucking Reggie like Slithering. You know, there's no turning.
True.
Destiny's turning the fate on this guy. Okay.
It's true. It's true. The one thing, the literal only thing I can get on this team about, like seriously, is that there's kind of a fire weakness.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
It's a Sun team with a fire weakness, and that means that you can kind of have your Sun used against you. And I think that's a little scary, but it's Torkoal and Walking Wake that are the fire resists. If it's a physical fire, I think Torkoal can deal with it fine, and Walking Wake quad resists it. So it probably won't be a huge issue, especially because if it's in the sun, it's coming in and it's protosynthesizing. Like, that thing is going to run immediately if you use a fire move on this team. So I don't think it's as big an issue as it would immediately appear, but it's good to keep in mind that something like Chi-Yu might capitalize on your team a little bit.
Yeah. There's 2 of them running
because
around.
the only real resist there is Chien-Pao.
Yeah.
Not Chien-Pao. It's Walking Wake. What am I saying?
Chien-Pao really resists those fire moves. We're getting
Yeah, I
through
know,
our
right?
heads.
I need to.
We're at the end of the video. We got through them all. Kraft is number 1. Rom is number 2. Yep. By far, I put Pluto number 3, so he gets to share the podium. But let's I spoiled this a little bit because I accidentally clicked too fast. But here's the final ranking. We got I mean, you can just see what we ranked. I'll just hover here while we just like bask in our glory as I think we're hitting around an hour 45 runtime, which is longer than
really. Oh my god.
I mean,
we need to timestamp this one when it's uploaded.
Yeah,
to let people
I just want to timestamp the end. I hate timestamping. It's gonna be annoying.
I'm so sorry.
Well, that's me just complaining. But I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the WPF Attack Division Power Rankings. I think we had fun doing this video.
Oh, for sure.
And in fact, I'm considering I'll upload from my own attack perspective on this because this is gonna go to my channel. We're just gonna upload it. I'm gonna upload attack from my perspective, so like my battles. So you see me and my Reggie Lucky team. I'll surpass Kraft. I'll make it to playoffs. I'll beat him in playoffs. I'm calling it now.
I'm scared of the fact that the number 1 and number 2 teams are in different divs, so they could be first seed of both sections. I don't know if they play each other. They might.
They might because they're both like 2nd and 3rd. I'm not sure.
We'll find out. Either way, I'm excited to see how this pans out. Yeah. I'm ready to see who proves us right and who proves us wrong.
Yeah. You know, I can't wait for Pluto and T-Bug to run it down. Be awful.
Max defense, you know what I'm saying?
Max defense. All right. Well, that's it for the WPF Attack. Power rankings. This is Volume. This is Pluto.
Yep, I am also here.
His WPF logo. Let's call it a day.
Sure is. That's a sick logo. You should mod there. It's pretty cool.
Pluto's advertising. You should join KRASHGANG! KRASHGANG!
Oh my god.